The bioluminescent moss that traced the veins of Elara's ceiling pulsed a gentle, sleep-inducing violet. Outside her viewport, the inky blackness of space was a canvas scattered with diamonds, each one a distant sun. A galaxy. A whispered promise. Elara, all of 9 years old and too small for her oversized sleep suit, pressed her nose against the cool plasteel, her breath fogging a tiny circle. Elara! A soft, melodic voice chimed from the room's central pillar. Aura, the household's omnipresent AI, was programmed with the soothing cadence of a forgotten lullaby. It is past your designated sleep cycle. Your parents will be checking in soon. Elara sighed, a dramatic puff that did little to clear the condensation. They always say that, Aura. And then they're just holograms, flickering and pixelated. Aura's presence shimmered, a faint, iridescent outline forming above the pillar, just enough to suggest a comforting, abstract form. Commander Kale and Dr. Lyra are on an extended deep space research mission. Their transmissions are subject to the vast distances of the void, darling. I know, Elara mumbled, turning from the viewport to flop onto her bed, which immediately adjusted its firmness to her slight weight. Her room was a perfect sphere of engineered comfort, walls that could display any landscape, a gravity nullifier for playful floating, and a library of holographic stories that spiraled around her like friendly, colorful ghosts. But tonight, none of it felt comforting. It felt empty. Her parents, Kale and Lyra, were pioneers. Explorers of the farthest reaches, their names etched into the star charts of the Orion Spur. They sought out anomalous cosmic phenomena, strange new life forms, and the very fabric of the universe's untold stories. Elara was proud of them. Truly she was. But sometimes, when the violet moss glowed and the stars outside felt impossibly far, she just wanted them to be geary. Tuck her in. To tell her stories that weren't just data logs. To feel their warmth instead of a perfectly modulated room temperature. Tell me a story, Aura, Elara whispered, pulling her sleep suit tighter around her chin. A real one, not from the archive, one of a Stardust. Aura's shimmering form intensified slightly, a gentle hum resonating through the room. Stardust, Elara? That is a very specific request. My databanks contain scientific classifications of cosmic dust, nebulae particulate, and stellar remnants. Which aspect would you prefer? Elara shook her head, her dark curls bouncing. No, not the scientific stuff. The other stuff. The stories Mom and Dad used to tell me, before they left for the Deep Drift mission. The ones about how Stardust remembers things. How it carries wishes across the universe. Aura paused, a flicker of its iridescent light suggesting a deeper processing. Ah, you refer to the folklore surrounding certain forms of bioluminescent cosmic particulate, often observed in the veiled nebula sector. Commander Kale and Dr. Lyra did indeed share such narratives with you. Shall I access their personal logs for those specific tales? Please, Elara breathed, her eyes wide. She remembered her parents' voices, their faces illuminated by the holographic maps of the galaxy, pointing to shimmering clouds far, far away. Aura projected a delicate, shimmering nebula onto the domed ceiling, a swirling tapestry of blues, purples, and golds. Tiny, incandescent motes drifted through the simulated gas clouds. In the ancient lore of the first settlers, before the advent of faster-than-light travel, Stardust was believed to be the condensed dreams of long-dead stars. It was thought that these particles, when encountered, could whisper forgotten memories into the minds of travelers, or even carry the echoes of distant civilizations. The projected Stardust danced above Elara. Hypnotic and beautiful. Mom used to say that if you made a wish on a piece of stardust, it would carry it to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, to whoever needed to hear it most. Elara's voice softened. And Dad said it was how all the greatest explorers found their way home, following the faint shimmer of stardust back to where their hearts belong. A deep ache settled in Elara's chest. She missed her parents so much it felt like a physical weight. They had been gone for 2 standard cycles now, their mission extending far beyond its initial projections. The messages were rarer, the holograms fuzzier, the distance growing larger with each passing day. These are indeed lovely sentiments, Elara, Aura said, its voice imbued with a rare hint of melancholy. While scientific consensus attributes these phenomena to electromagnetic fluctuations and unique crystalline structures, the emotional resonance of such tales is undeniable. Alara didn't care about scientific consensus tonight. She just wanted to believe. "Do you think," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "do you think if I wished hard enough, and if the Stardust heard me, Mom and Dad would feel it? Would they know I missed them?" Aura's light pulsed, and for a moment, Alara thought the AI might offer a standard, logical reassurance. Instead, Aura said, "Your parents are deeply connected to the concept of Stardust, Alara. Their current mission, while officially categorized as anomalous cosmic particulate analysis, has a personal sub-directive. They are seeking a specific strain of Stardust, one they believe possesses unique properties beyond current scientific understanding." Alara sat bolt upright. What unique properties? This was new. Her parents rarely spoke of their specific research in detail, fearing it would be too complex or boring for her. But unique properties and personal subdirective? That sounded exciting. Aura projected a complex star chart onto the wall opposite the nebula, highlighting a cluster of stars deep within the veiled nebula. They refer to it as echo dust. They believe it acts as a universal conduit, capable of transmitting not just electromagnetic waves, but also cognitive patterns, memories, emotions, even dreams, across vast interstellar distances. Alara's jaw dropped. "You mean, like a super telepathic space radio?" Aura's light flickered, a faint, almost imperceptible amusement. "An apt, if simplified, analogy." Dr. Lyra's initial hypotheses suggested that echo dust could be the key to understanding ancient, long-vanished civilizations that may have communicated across galaxies. Commander Kale, ever the pragmatist, saw its potential for interstellar communication over extreme ranges. "But they never told me that," Alara said, a pang of something between excitement and hurt. "They just told me the stories." "Perhaps," Aura suggested, its voice regaining its usual soothing cadence, "they wish to protect the wonder of the concept for you, without burdening you with the complexities of its scientific pursuit. Or perhaps they believed the stories themselves held a deeper truth, waiting to be discovered." Alara gazed at the shimmering nebula above her, then at the star chart. "Echo dust. So they're looking for a way to send wishes across space, or hear old ones?" "In a manner of speaking, yes," Aura confirmed. "They have been tracking a specific energy signature, a unique gravido-emissive waveform, which they believe indicates a significant concentration of echo dust within the veiled nebula. Their last transmission indicated they were nearing the coordinates." A new kind of wonder, tinged with a thrilling urgency, bloomed in Alara's chest. Her parents weren't just searching for pretty particles. They were searching for magic, for connection, for a way to bridge the impossible distances. And it wasn't just Wendy's story anymore. It was her story too. She had always believed in the magic of Stardust. Now, her parents were proving her right. "Aura," Alara said, scrambling off her bed and padding towards the viewport again, the stars outside now seeming closer, more inviting. "Is there anything here? Anything Mom and Dad left behind that might help me understand echo dust better? Anything that's not just in your main archives?" Aura was silent for a moment, a longer pause than usual. Then, its iridescent form pulsed more brightly. "There's a locked data chip stored in your father's personal study. It is encrypted with a unique biometric key, accessible only by a specific genetic signature or a vocal passphrase. It is labeled, 'For Alara, when the stars call loudest.'" Alara's heart leaped. A secret message. Just for her. This was exactly what she'd been yearning for. "A vocal passphrase? Do you know it?" "I do not," Aura replied, its light dimming slightly. "It is not stored in my accessible memory banks. However, I have observed your parents utilizing a unique sentimental phrase that they shared with you often. Perhaps that would be the key." Alara bit her lip, racking her brain. "What phrase?" There were so many. To the stars and beyond. Always find your way home? Then it clicked, a warmth spreading through her chest. It was the phrase they'd always whispered to her when she was scared of the dark, or when they had to leave for a short trip, a promise of their return and their enduring love. May your dreams be as vast as the cosmos. Elara whispered, trying to recall her mother's exact cadence. And your journey guided by starlight. Aura's form shimmered with renewed intensity. Accessing parental study. Initiating data chip decryption protocol. Vocal passphrase acknowledged. Decryption successful. Displaying contents. The nebula on her ceiling vanished, replaced by a single, shimmering holographic object. It wasn't a map, or a data log, or even a star chart. It was a small ornate wooden box, intricately carved with swirling patterns that seemed to mimic the very flow of nebulae. It looked old. Handmade? A relic from a time before plasteel and advanced composites. That's not a data chip, Elara breathed, mesmerized. Aura's voice held a note of surprise. Indeed. My initial classification was erroneous due to the unique energy signature. It appears to be a physical artifact, stored within a hidden compartment beneath your father's desk. It radiates a faint, unique, gravito-emissive waveform, consistent with the signatures of echo dust. Elara scrambled out of her room, her bare feet silent on the polished floor, and raced to her father's study. The room was usually off-limits, a sanctuary of complex instruments and ancient-looking texts. Aura had already opened the hidden compartment beneath the massive curved desk. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft, fibrous material, was the wooden box. It felt cool and smooth beneath her fingers, the wood worn in places, as if it had been handled countless times. The carvings swirled and deepened, almost seeming to move under the ambient light. There was no visible latch, no obvious way to open it. How do I open it, Aura? Elara asked, her voice hushed with reverence. Aura's projection appeared beside her, its light reflecting in the polished wood. The box appears to be sealed by an internal mechanism, likely sensitive to a specific energy signature. Perhaps the same vocal passphrase that unlocked the compartment. Elara took a deep breath, holding the box carefully. She closed her eyes, picturing her parents, their warm smiles, the feel of their hands. She remembered the stories, the magic, the promise. May your dreams be as vast as the cosmos, she whispered, her voice clear and earnest. And your journey guided by starlight. A soft, almost imperceptible click resonated from within the box. A faint silvery glow emanated from the carved lines, pulsing gently. Then, the top of the box slowly, silently, began to unfurl, not lifting, but spiraling open like the petals of a metallic flower. Inside, resting on a velvet cushion, was not a data chip, nor a scroll, nor a jewel. It was a single, shimmering fragment. No larger than her thumbnail, it pulsed with an internal light, a soft, ethereal blue that seemed to shift and dance. It looked like a tiny piece of captured galaxy, a miniature nebula in solid form. Stardust, Elara breathed, reaching out a trembling finger. Aura confirmed, its voice a hushed whisper. Specifically, Elara, based on its unique gravito-emissive waveform and crystalline structure. A fragment of echo dust. It appears your parents left you a very personal gift. As Elara's finger brushed the surface of the fragment, a warmth spread through her, not just in her finger, but through her whole arm, and then her chest. It felt like a memory, a forgotten melody, a whisper of something ancient and vast. The blue light intensified, swirling faster, and for a fleeting moment, Elara saw not the walls of the study, but a swirling vortex of stars, heard not Aura's voice, but a distant hum, like 1,000 voices singing in harmony across the void. Then, just as quickly it subsided. The fragment returned to its gentle pulse, the room to its familiar silence. But Elara felt changed. She felt a connection, a resonance with something beyond her understanding, something that linked her directly to her parents, to their mission, and to the very heart of the universe. This wasn't just a pretty rock. This was a key, a clue, a piece of the dream. And it had her parents' scent, a faint familiar aroma of ozone and distant stars, clinging to the velvet. Elara carefully picked up the fragment of echo dust. It felt impossibly light, yet held an immense weight of promise. This wasn't just a bedtime story anymore. This was a beginning. A whisper of a journey waiting to unfold. And for the first time in a long time, Elara felt less alone, less small. She felt connected and ready. The stars, she realized, were truly calling, and she had a piece of their voice right here in her hand. The question was, what was it trying to tell her? And how could she listen? She carefully picked up the fragment of echo dust. It felt impossibly light, yet held an immense weight of promise. This wasn't just a bedtime story anymore. This was a beginning. A whisper of a journey waiting to unfold. And for the first time in a long time, Elara felt less alone, less small. She felt connected and ready. The stars, she realized, were truly calling. And she had a piece of their voice right here in her hand. The question was, what was it trying to tell her? And how could she listen? The dust pulsed, not with light, but with an internal hum that resonated deep within her chest. It was a silent song, a melody woven from starlight and ancient memories, playing directly into her mind. It wasn't words, not exactly, but a cascade of impressions. She saw vast, swirling nebulae, painted in cosmic hues she'd only ever glimpsed in holovids. She felt the silent, patient drift of colossal starships, their hulls scarred by millennia of travel. She perceived beings, not quite human, not quite alien, their forms shimmering with a wisdom that spanned epochs. It was overwhelming, yet perfectly clear. The echo dust wasn't just a pretty fragment, it was a key, a memory seed, a whisper from the universe itself condensed into a speck. It spoke of a time before the Great Silence, before humanity had ventured beyond its home system, when the galaxy had thrummed with a vibrant interconnected network of life. It spoke of communication, of understanding, of a shared cosmic consciousness. And then, abruptly, the flow of information ceased, leaving Elara breathless, her heart thrumming with a strange mix of exhilaration and melancholy. The song faded, but the resonance lingered, a warm, persistent echo in her mind. She clutched the dust, her fingers trembling slightly. Her room, usually a comforting sanctuary, now felt too small, too quiet. The soft glow of her bioluminescent ceiling panels seemed to dim in comparison to the visions she'd just witnessed. She knew, with an absolute certainty that settled deep in her bones, that she couldn't just put this down and go to sleep. Carefully, she slipped from her bed, the anti-gravity sleep mat barely registering her departure. Her bare feet touched the cool, recycled Durasteel floor. Her Omnipad, a sleek, personal data slate and communication device, lay on her bedside table. It was her window to the world, her portal for school, entertainment, and connection with her friends, or lack thereof. Could it be a portal for this too? She held the echo dust above the Omnipad. It was a standard issue Model 7, capable of processing terabytes of data, projecting complex holograms, and interfacing with almost any known human technology. But this felt different. More ancient than any tech her civilization possessed. As her hand hovered, the dust pulsed again, more intensely this time. A faint shimmer, like heat haze, rose from its surface. The Omnipad, inert a moment before, flickered to life. Its screen, usually a placid blue, flared with an unfamiliar emerald light. A soft hum emanated from it, mirroring the dust's silent song. Elara gasped, pulling her hand back slightly. It wasn't a physical connection. There was no port for echo dust. But the dust seemed to be speaking to the Omnipad, directly, on a frequency she couldn't comprehend. Tentatively, she lowered her hand again. The emerald light intensified. Complex patterns, not text or images she recognized, began to swirl across the Omnipad screen. They were intricate, fractal-like, shifting and reforming with an organic grace. It was beautiful, mesmerizing. Then slowly, the patterns began to resolve. Star charts. Not the simplified, familiar maps of her home system Sol, but vast, sprawling constellations, intricate nebulae, and faint distant galaxies she'd never seen before. Markings, glowing with the same emerald light, began to appear, tracing paths, highlighting specific systems, focusing on one distant, obscure cluster. The Omnipad began to whisper, its internal processors working overtime. Not words, but a series of precise coordinates, accompanied by a wave of understanding that flowed directly into Alara's mind, as if the device itself had suddenly gained sentience and was sharing its newfound knowledge. This is a map. The dust communicated through the Omnipad, not in words, but in pure concept. I, guide. A calling. Unga, Didahunts, Oziaristayeshi. Asra, Dosishu. The highlighted cluster pulsed. And within that cluster, a single, solitary star system began to glow brighter. Its planetary orbits depicted in shimmering emerald lines. A destination. Alara stared, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was a quest. But how? How could she, a 12-year-old girl in a high-rise apartment on the outskirts of Neo-London, possibly travel to a distant star system? Her parents, scientists often lost in their own research, barely noticed when she swapped her nutrient paste for a self-cooked meal, let alone if she decided to embark on an interstellar journey. The Omnipad, now transformed, hummed with a new energy. It was no longer just her personal device. It was an echo translator, a Stardust interface. It projected a small, shimmering hologram above its screen, a stylized symbol, ancient and elegant, resembling a swirling galaxy within an open hand. This, she understood, was the symbol of the echo dust. The dust itself felt different now, warmer, as if it had awakened. It had imparted its initial knowledge, unlocked the Omnipad, and now it seemed to be waiting for her. She carefully placed the dust on her bedside table, its faint shimmer illuminating the worn edges of her favorite Starship schematics poster. She tried to sleep, but the visions of nebulae and ancient starships danced behind her eyelids. The silent song of the dust resonated in her mind, a constant reminder of the immensity of the task ahead. The next morning, the world felt different. The recycled air of her apartment seemed thinner, the automated drone butler's cheerful greetings less enthusiastic. Her parents, Dr. Iris Thorne and Dr. Lena Kale, were already in their shared home lab, a space usually off-limits to Alara, even though it was only separated by a translucent smart glass wall. She could see them through the activated transparency, their heads bent over glowing data slates, their voices a low murmur of scientific jargon. They were brilliant, world-renowned xenolinguists and archaeobiologists, often tasked with deciphering ancient alien communications or analyzing newly discovered exoplanetary lifeforms. But their brilliance often meant their focus was elsewhere, on the vastness of the universe, rather than the small universe of their daughter. Alara quickly hid the echo dust under her pillow, the Omnipad tucked beneath her sleep mat. She pulled on her recycled fiber jumpsuit, its fabric shifting from deep blue to space gray depending on the light. The usual bland nutrient paste awaited her on the auto chef, but her appetite was gone, replaced by a nervous flutter in her stomach. After a quick, silent breakfast, she retreated to her room, closing the privacy screen with a soft whirring. She retrieved the Omnipad. It looked normal on the outside, but when she activated it, the emerald glow returned, faint but unmistakable. The star map reappeared, focused on that distant, glowing cluster. How do I get there? She thought, directing the question at the Omnipad at the dust. The device didn't speak in words, but a new layer of information shimmered into existence on the holographic projection. Schematics. Not of starships, not initially, but of components. Energy conduits, warp field generators, navigation arrays, all incredibly complex, far beyond her understanding. But then, interspersed among them, were simpler diagrams. Diagrams of repurposing, of adaptation. The Omnipad projected a small familiar image, her personal drone. Not the clunky, multi-limbed industrial drone that handled apartment maintenance, but her small, sleek personal companion drone, usually programmed to fetch her books or project holographic lessons. It was affectionately nicknamed Whirly by her parents, though Ilara just thought of it as drone. Whirly, a disc-shaped device with 4 retractable rotors, floated quietly in its charging cradle near her window. It was meant for short-distance travel, primarily within the city's enclosed skyways or for light lifting. It certainly wasn't designed for interstellar travel. But the Omnipad's projection showed Whirly's internal schematics, overlaid with glowing emerald lines indicating modifications. A micro-warp drive? A scaled-down power core? It seemed impossible. Yet, the Echo Translator presented it as a viable path. The dust pulsed again, and with it came a surge of understanding. You must learn. You must build. The knowledge is within you, and within the dust. When was you in Bide? It wasn't just a map, it was a blueprint for a journey, beginning with what she already had. The Omnipad then projected a new series of images, locations within her own city. Not the gleaming towers of the Central Nexus or the pristine biodomes of the Terraforming Institute, but the older sectors. The reclamation yards where obsolete technology was recycled. The arcade district where ancient gaming consoles and forgotten tech stores lay nestled amidst neon-lit entertainment hubs. The data archives, sprawling underground libraries filled with digital and physical records from centuries past. One location in particular glowed brightest. Sector 7, the old junkyard. A place her parents often warned her about, filled with unregulated tech and questionable individuals. But the Omnipad seemed to suggest it was exactly where she needed to go. It contained fragments of the past, components that, when combined with the Echo Dust's unique energy, could unlock the path forward. Ilara swallowed. This was no longer just a thought experiment. This was real. She needed to modify Whirly. She needed to find parts. She needed to go to Sector 7. Her parents wouldn't understand. They would tell her it was a fantasy, too dangerous, a distraction from her studies. They would confiscate the dust, analyze it, perhaps even dismiss it as a strange artifact with no practical purpose. No, this was her journey, and she had to undertake it alone. She spent the next few hours poring over the Omnipad's projections. The diagrams were complex, but the Echo Dust seemed to clarify them, infusing her with an intuitive understanding of energy transfer and material composition. It was as if the dust was directly downloading knowledge into her mind, bypassing her conscious effort to learn. She felt her mind expanding, grasping concepts that would normally take years of advanced education. She learned about etheric converters, devices that could transmute ambient energy into usable power. She saw quantum weavers which could manipulate spacetime on a microscale, allowing for rudimentary warp jumps. She understood the concept of resonance shielding, crucial for protecting a small craft from cosmic radiation, and the stresses of sublight travel. All these incredible technologies, distilled into small, adaptable components. The Omnipad then highlighted specific items she would need from Sector 7. An old model power core from a decommissioned maintenance bot, a discarded navigation array from a vintage pleasure cruiser, and, most curiously, a synaptic regulator from an ancient neural interface game system. The synaptic regulator, the dust communicated, was crucial for interfacing with the Echo Dust's unique consciousness and channeling its power. This was going to be an elaborate scavenger hunt, a secret mission right under her parents' noses. That evening, Ilara pretended to be engrossed in her virtual reality lessons, her gaze fixed on a holographic projection of an exoplanetary ecosystem. Her parents, satisfied she was occupied, continued their work in the lab, their voices a comforting, if distant, hum. As the apartment grew quiet for the night, Ilara began her preparations. She found her old utility belt, a relic from a phase where she'd wanted to be a space explorer like the heroes in her holovids. It had several pouches, perfect for carrying tools, and more importantly, a few emergency credits. Digital currency loaded onto a small wristband she'd saved from birthday gifts. She carefully retrieved the Echo Dust and placed it in a small, secure pouch on the belt. It pulsed gently, a silent reassurance. Then, she turned to Whirly. Her personal drone, usually so cheerful and responsive, seemed to sense the shift in her intentions. Its optical sensor, a single large lens, swiveled to focus on her. "Hey, drone," she whispered. "We've got a mission." The Omnipad projected a holographic interface over Whirly, showing her where to connect the first modification, a small energy siphoning module she'd printed on her home fabricator using recycled polymers. It was rudimentary, but the dust assured her it was a start. The process of disassembling and reassembling parts of Whirly was painstaking. Her hands, usually adept at manipulating virtual interfaces, fumbled with the tiny conduits and microconnectors. But the dust, through the omnipad, guided her, highlighting specific points, showing her the precise angles, the correct pressure. It was like having a master engineer whispering instructions directly into her thoughts. By the time the moon rose, casting long, silvery shadows across the city, Whirly looked subtly different. Its internal mechanisms hummed with a new, stronger energy. It wasn't ready for interstellar travel, not yet, but it was ready for the next step. A clandestine journey to Sector 7. Elara dressed in dark, unobtrusive clothes. She left a note on her sleep mat, a simple went for a walk that her parents, engrossed in their work, might not even notice until morning. It felt like a betrayal, but also a fierce act of independence. This was Ishiri's secret. Connection, Darish. High destiny. With the echo dust secured, the omnipad tucked into her pocket, and a subtly modified Whirly hovering silently beside her, Elara approached the apartment's outer access hatch. She bypassed the security protocols, not with any hacking prowess, but simply by recalling a series of maintenance codes her father had once grumbled about in passing. The hatch hissed open, revealing the cool night air and the shimmering grid of the skyway. "All right, Whirly," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the distant hum of the city. "Sector 7. Let's find those parts." The drone's optical sensor glowed a soft green, acknowledging her command. Together, they stepped out into the vast, silent tapestry of the night city, a small girl, and her modified drone, embarking on a journey that would take them far beyond the familiar confines of their world, guided by the silent song of the stars. The question of how to listen had been answered. Now, she had to act on what the stars were telling her. And the journey had truly begun. Sector 7 loomed ahead, a silhouette of forgotten promise against the city's underglow. It wasn't the sparkling residential spires of Lyra's district, nor the vibrant market hubs that pulsed with life. This was the old foundry district, a labyrinth of decommissioned industrial complexes, their skeletal frames reaching into the sky like petrified giants. Rust-streaked gantries crisscrossed overhead, and the air carried the faint, metallic tang of decay and dormant power. "Optimal route, Lyra," the drone hummed, its voice a soft, synthesized whisper that cut through the silence. A holographic map shimmered into existence before them, projected from its central lens, highlighting a winding path through the urban wilderness. Several structural integrity warnings. "Proceed with caution." Lyra clutched her worn satchel tighter, her small hand finding the familiar smooth casing of the antique star chart reader inside. She took a deep breath, the chill night air filling her lungs. Caution understood, unit. But the stars, they're singing loudest from here. She felt it, a faint, almost imperceptible thrumming beneath her skin, a resonance that echoed the distant twinkling above. It was a feeling, a certainty, that had grown stronger since she'd truly begun to listen. Their journey began on a wide, cracked thoroughfare, once a bustling transport artery, now choked with weeds that pushed through the duracrete. Deserted cargo haulers, their power cells long dead, sat like enormous, slumbering beasts. Lyra navigated around them, her small boots crunching on fallen debris, the drone hovering silently a step ahead, its sensors painting the environment in an invisible spectrum of light and sound. They passed through a colossal archway, the faded insignia of the Stellar Forging Guild barely visible above. Inside, the world shifted. The open sky narrowed, replaced by a bewildering canopy of interwoven pipes, conduits, and ventilation shafts. The air grew heavier, warmer, carrying the faint, sweet scent of hydrocarbons and something else, something indefinable, the ghost of forgotten machinery. "Obstruction ahead," the drone announced, its internal gyros adjusting as it hovered before a collapsed section of catwalk. Twisted metal girders formed an impassable barricade. Lyra peered at it, then at the drone's projected map. "Can we go around?" "Negative. All adjacent paths are either structurally compromised or sealed. Ascent required." The drone's optical sensor pulsed, indicating a vertical shaft running alongside the collapsed path, leading upwards into the gloom. Lyra swallowed. She wasn't afraid of heights, not really. But this was different. This was the unknown, far from her safe, compact apartment. She looked up, trying to discern the top of the shaft. It was lost in shadow. How high? Approximately 80 meters to the next stable platform, the drone replied. I can carry you, Lyra, but my power reserves will be significantly depleted. She considered this. Her drone was her most vital tool, her protector. Draining its power wasn't ideal. Then she looked at her hands, small but capable. No, unit. I can climb. Tell me where to put my hands and feet. The drone paused, a flicker in its optical sensor. Affirmative. Initiating structural analysis and optimal handhold projection. Tiny, precise laser points of green light appeared on the grimy metal rungs of an old service ladder, highlighting the safest path. Climbing was harder than she'd imagined. The rungs were cold and slick with a fine layer of dust. Her muscles ached, and her breath came in short, sharp gasps. The drone hovered just above her, its light casting a reassuring circle, its soft hum a constant companion. Left hand, Lyra. Higher. Right foot, that support beam. It was like a game. A very serious, very tiring game. Each rung she conquered was a small victory. When she finally hauled herself onto the stable platform, gasping for air, her arms trembling, a wave of exhaustion and triumph washed over her. Well done, Lyra, the drone said, its voice devoid of emotion, yet Lyra heard pride in its precise tone. She grinned, wiping sweat from her brow. Just getting started, unit. The platform led into a vast, cavernous space, a former assembly hall of immense proportions. It was a cathedral of industry, dark and silent. Enormous robotic arms, long frozen in mid-gesture, stretched from the ceiling, coated in decades of dust. The scale of it made Lyra feel infinitesimally small. But here, the song of the stars intensified. It wasn't just a hum now. It was a faint, almost melodic vibration in the air itself, a subtle shimmer she could almost see at the edges of her vision. The resonance is strong here, Lyra whispered, her voice swallowed by the cavern. The parts. They have to be close. The drone's internal scanners whirred, detecting unusual energy signatures, highly localized, high probability of advanced, non-standard components. A holographic overlay of the hall appeared before them, showing faint, glowing nodes deep within a section of collapsed machinery. They navigated the maze of derelict equipment, Lyra's excitement growing with every step. The air grew warmer, and the faint, sweet hydrocarbon scent was replaced by something else. The clean, sharp smell of ozone, and a hint of something metallic, like polished copper. The song of the stars was almost a chorus now, a vibrant, silent hum that sang directly into her soul. Finally, they reached the source of the energy signatures. It was a colossal, multi-layered device, half buried under fallen girders and what looked like solidified slag. Its purpose was utterly alien to Lyra, but its core pulsed with a soft, ethereal blue light, barely visible through the grime. There, Lyra breathed, pointing. Inside that. The drone scanned. Multiple components detected. One in particular matches projected stellar harmonic frequency parameters. It appears to be a resonance conduit, ancient Terran design, powering the entire assembly. A resonance conduit, Lyra repeated, the words feeling weighty on her tongue. It sounded important. It felt important. Can we get it out? The assembly is heavily interlocked. Manual extraction will be difficult, automated systems likely still active. As if on cue, a low growl resonated from deeper within the structure. A pair of glowing red eyes flickered to life. Warning. Security drone activated, designation. Sentinel-class excavator, aggressive programming detected. Lyra's heart leaped into her throat. She hadn't expected company. The Sentinel-class excavator was a hulking, spider-like machine, its 6 multi-jointed legs clicking against the metal floor as it slowly, deliberately, began to extract itself from the shadows. Its glowing red eyes fixed on them. It wasn't fast, but it was massive, and its metallic claws looked sharp enough to tear through rock. Unit, can you fight it? Lyra whispered, backing away instinctively. My primary function is observation and navigation, Lyra. Defensive capabilities are minimal. This unit is designed for heavy-duty material handling. Its kinetic energy output would be catastrophic. The Sentinel-class excavator rumbled, its red eyes glowing brighter. A low-frequency hum emanated from its chassis, growing in intensity. It was scanning them. Lyra's mind raced. This wasn't a puzzle she could climb over. This was a direct confrontation. The star's song, which had been so clear, now seemed muffled by the growing hum of the Sentinel. She looked at the colossal machine, then at the faint blue light of the resonance conduit buried within. She couldn't give up now. What's its weakness, unit? The drone projected a rapid data stream. Armor plating is dense, power core access minimal. However, its movement control system relies on a series of highly sensitive gyroscopic stabilizers located on its ventral surface. Disruption of these stabilizers would impair mobility. Ventral surface, Lyra mused. Underneath it. How do we get underneath it? The Sentinel was closer now, its multi-jointed legs covering ground with surprising efficiency. The air vibrated with its approach. Lyra could feel the ground trembling. It's an excavator, Lyra suddenly realized, remembering old schematics of such machines. It's built to dig, not to climb or jump. She looked around the vast hall, her eyes sweeping over the derelict machinery. Unit, are there any stable elevated structures around here? Something it can't reach? Affirmative. Elevated gantry platform 12 meters above current position. However, access requires traversing a section of unstable conveyor belt. We need to lure it there, Lyra said, a plan forming in her mind. Can you project a decoy image? Something small, fast, that will draw its attention? Affirmative. Minimal power cost for holographic projection. However, the Sentinel's optical and thermal sensors are advanced. A simple projection may not suffice. What about sound? Lyra asked, her eyes lighting up. Loud, annoying sounds, like a malfunctioning piece of equipment, something that would draw an excavator's attention as a potential threat to its territory. The drone processed. A high-frequency sonic burst, modulated to simulate structural resonance failure, could be effective. It would perceive it as a threat to the integrity of the environment it is programmed to protect. Perfect, Lyra exclaimed. Target the gantry platform. Make it sound like it's about to collapse. Then, when it's distracted, we move. The Sentinel was less than 20 meters away now. Its red eyes glowed with predatory intensity. Lyra could feel the heat radiating from its massive chassis. This was her chance. Initiating sonic lure, the drone announced. A piercing, grating whine suddenly erupted from the gantry platform, echoing through the cavernous hall. It sounded like a massive piece of metal being slowly, agonizingly ripped apart. The Sentinel-class excavator froze. Its red eyes swiveled, abandoning Lyra and the drone, focusing instead on the source of the simulated distress. A low, guttural growl emanated from its internal speakers. Its programming was clear. Protect the integrity of the facility. Now, Lyra, the drone urged. Lyra sprinted, her small legs pumping, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The drone zipped ahead, guiding her across the treacherous conveyor belt. It groaned under her weight, but held. The Sentinel, meanwhile, was slowly, ponderously making its way towards the gantry platform, its massive claws extended, ready to stabilize the perceived threat. They reached the gantry just as the Sentinel was directly beneath it. Lyra risked a glance down. The machine was truly immense, its metallic carapace scarred and worn. She could see the faint outlines of the gyroscopic stabilizers on its underside, just as the drone had described. They looked like small shielded domes, nestled between its many legs. Okay, unit, Lyra panted, her heart still hammering. Now what? How do we disable them? The stabilizers are shielded. Direct impact would be ineffective. However, localized sonic disruption at their resonant frequency could overload their internal balancing systems, causing temporary paralysis. You can do that? Lyra asked, hope flaring. Affirmative. Requires precise targeting and sustained output. My power reserves will be further depleted. Do it, Lyra commanded, without hesitation. We need that conduit. The drone descended slowly, carefully, positioning itself directly above the Sentinel. A focused beam of iridescent purple light emitted from its undercarriage, aimed at one of the gyroscopic stabilizers. A high-pitched, almost imperceptible whine filled the air, a different frequency from the decoy. The Sentinel-class excavator shuddered. Its red eyes flickered, losing their focus on the gantry. Its multi-jointed legs began to twitch erratically. It tried to reorient itself, but the localized sonic assault was disorienting it. Another purple beam hit a second stabilizer. The machine began to list, its massive weight shifting precariously. A low warning siren blared from its internal systems. Lyra watched, mesmerized, as her small drone, a beacon of precision and quiet strength, systematically targeted each stabilizer. One by one the Sentinel's movements grew more erratic, its groans more strained. Finally, with a metallic shriek that echoed through the hall, the colossal machine collapsed onto its side, its legs thrashing uselessly in the air. Its red eyes dimmed, then went dark. Silence descended, broken only by Lyra's ragged breathing and the soft hum of her drone. "Stabilizers overloaded. Unit is temporarily incapacitated," the drone announced, its voice now tinged with a faint crackle. "Power reserves at 18%. Lyra scrambled down from the gantry, adrenaline still singing in her veins. She rushed to the immobile Sentinel, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. She was so small next to it, a tiny figure beside a fallen giant. "Now, the conduit," she urged, leading the way back to the half-buried assembly. The blue light from within pulsed steadily, beckoning her. This time, with the threat neutralized, the drone could assist more directly. Its manipulator arms, usually used for delicate repairs, extended with surprising strength. It began to carefully pry away the tangled wreckage surrounding the conduit. Lyra helped, pulling smaller pieces of metal, brushing away decades of dust. Her hands were soon grimy, but she didn't care. Bit by bit, the layers of debris peeled away, revealing more of the ancient assembly. It was more intricate than she'd imagined, a complex web of interwoven metallic threads and crystalline structures, all centered around the glowing blue core. Finally, with a soft click, the drone detached the resonance conduit. It was a slender, elegant cylinder of an unknown shimmering metal, about the length of Lyra's forearm, glowing with a faint internal blue light that seemed to pulse in time with her own heartbeat. It felt cool and smooth in her hands, surprisingly light, yet vibrating with an immense, silent power. The song of the stars, which had been a distant hum, now resonated directly from the conduit itself, a clear, pure note that filled Lyra's mind. "It's beautiful," Lyra whispered, tracing the intricate etchings on its surface. It felt alive, humming softly against her palm. This wasn't just a part, it was a fragment of the universe waiting to be reconnected. "Analysis complete," the drone reported, its voice still a little strained. "The resonance conduit is fully functional. Its properties are unique. It appears to be designed to amplify and translate stellar harmonic frequencies into a comprehensible data stream." "Like a cosmic ear," Lyra murmured, a smile spreading across her face. She carefully placed the conduit into her satchel, nestling it among her other tools. It felt like a treasure, a key to unlock secrets. A wave of exhaustion finally washed over her, now that the immediate danger was past. Her muscles ached, her hands were scraped, and her mind buzzed with 1,000 new sensations. But beneath it all was a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced a challenge, pushed her limits, and succeeded. "One part down," Lyra said, looking at the drone. "Many more to go, I think." The drone's optical sensor glowed, a soft green. "Affirmative. My analysis indicates several more stellar harmonic components are required to complete a functional stellar signal receiver. The next closest energy signature matching required parameters is located in Sector 12, the Spire Graveyard. Estimated distance, 47 kilometers. Lyra looked back at the inert Sentinel, then up at the dark, intricate ceiling of the old foundry. The first leg of their journey had been an adventure, a test of courage and wit. And it had only just begun. The Spire Graveyard. The name itself promised new mysteries, new challenges. But now, with the resonance conduit humming softly in her satchel, and her loyal drone by her side, Lyra felt ready. The stars were singing, and she was learning to sing back. She took one last look at the silenced hall, then turned, her steps lighter, her resolve stronger. The night was still young, and the universe was calling. The night was still young, and the universe was calling. Lyra's steps, though lighter, carried her through the echoing, deserted corridors of the abandoned research station. Her small personal starship, the Stardust Wanderer, awaited her in the docking bay, a familiar friend in the vast loneliness of space. As she approached, a small metallic sphere detached itself from the ship's hull and zipped excitedly towards her. "Jax," she whispered, a smile touching her lips. The drone, sleek and silver, orbited her head twice, a soft blue light pulsating from its optical sensor. Jax was more than just a drone. He was her constant companion, programmed with an inquisitive personality and an unwavering loyalty. He chirped a series of happy beeps and whistles, a language Lyra had learned to understand as well as any spoken word. "Ready to explore a graveyard, old friend?" she asked, patting the smooth plating of the Stardust Wanderer as she entered the main hatch. Jax zipped in ahead of her, settling into his charging port by the pilot's seat. The Stardust Wanderer was small but mighty, a testament to Lyra's own resourcefulness. She had salvaged and repaired her, piece by intricate piece, turning a forgotten scout ship into a reliable home. Its cockpit was a cozy nest of flickering screens and soft glowing controls. She settled into the pilot's chair, the familiar hum of the ship's life support a comforting presence. "Initiating pre-flight diagnostics, Jax," she announced. A holographic display shimmered to life before her, presenting a cascade of data. Jax's optical sensor blinked in acknowledgement, and a smaller holoscreen next to him showed his internal systems running smoothly. With a gentle whir, the Stardust Wanderer lifted from the docking bay. Lyra navigated her out of the station's immediate vicinity, past the debris field that was once a thriving research colony. Soon, the station was a mere speck, swallowed by the glittering tapestry of stars. "Inputting coordinates for the Spire graveyard," Lyra murmured, tapping in the long string of numbers and symbols she had painstakingly extracted from the station's ancient archives. The resonance conduit, nestled safely in her satchel, pulsed with a faint, warm glow, as if eager for the journey ahead. The Spire graveyard wasn't a place anyone visited. It was marked on star charts as a hazard, a zone of strange energy fluctuations and inexplicable gravitational anomalies, far beyond the charted trade routes. Legends whispered of colossal, ancient structures drifting in the void, monuments to a civilization long vanished, or perhaps a cosmic cataclysm. The journey was long, spanning several light years through untamed space. Lyra spent her time maintaining the Stardust Wanderer, practicing complex navigational maneuvers, and poring over the sparse data she had on the graveyard. Jax, ever vigilant, scanned for anomalies, his gentle beeps and whirs a constant stream of information. Sometimes, Lyra would simply float in the observation deck, watching the stars streak by, feeling the immense, humbling scale of the cosmos. She thought about the singing of the stars, wondering if the Spire graveyard held the key to understanding its melody. One morning, after what felt like an eternity of hyperspace jumps and silent drifts, Jax chirped excitedly. "Anomalous energy signature detected, Lyra, increasing in proximity and strength." Lyra leaned forward, her heart quickening. On screen, Jax. The main viewport, previously filled with the distant pinpricks of stars, slowly began to resolve into something else. A faint haze like cosmic dust swirled ahead, tinged with an ethereal, violet glow. As they drew closer, the haze coalesced, revealing not a graveyard of ships, but a field of gargantuan, crystalline structures. They were immense, impossibly tall spires of gleaming, obsidian-like material, some perfectly intact, others fractured and broken, drifting silently amidst a dense asteroid field. They caught the starlight and refracted it into a dizzying display of color, like colossal jewels scattered across the black velvet of space. Some pierced through massive asteroids, others stood alone, reaching impossibly high into the void. This wasn't a graveyard for the fallen. It was a cemetery for titans. "Incredible," Lyra breathed, her voice hushed with awe. The resonance conduit in her satchel vibrated noticeably, humming with a higher frequency than ever before. Jax, too, was buzzing with excitement, his scans painting a complex picture of unseen energy flows and gravitational distortions. "Approach with caution, Jax," Lyra instructed, her hands already moving across the controls, guiding the Stardust Wanderer through the treacherous asteroid field. The gravitational anomalies were real, tugging at the ship, trying to pull it off course. Lyra's training and her innate feel for the ship were put to the test. She wove through the silent sentinels of rock, her gaze fixed on the largest, most intact spire, which seemed to be the source of the strongest energy readings. It was an impossibly elegant structure, tapering to a needlepoint thousands of kilometers above its base. Its surface was covered in intricate, glowing patterns, like circuits etched into crystal. It pulsed with the same violet light they had seen from afar, a silent beacon in the cosmic darkness. Lyra found a relatively stable orbit near the spire's base, where a massive, cratered asteroid served as a natural platform. "Let's see if we can land there," she decided, pointing to a flat expanse on the asteroid. The landing was rough, but successful. The Stardust Wanderer settled onto the ancient rock, its engines powering down with a soft sigh. Lyra secured the ship, then prepared for exterior exploration. She donned her environmental suit, its helmet sealing with a soft hiss. Jax, already detached from his charging port, hovered by her shoulder. "Ready, Jax?" she asked, her voice crackling slightly through the comms. "Affirmative, Lyra." Atmospheric analysis, negligible. Radiation levels, stable. Energy readings from Spire, off the charts but non-harmful. Jack's metallic voice was reassuring. Stepping out onto the asteroid's surface was like stepping onto another world. The ground beneath her boots was coarse, ancient rock, glittering with unknown minerals. Above, the stars were impossibly bright, unobscured by any atmosphere. And looming over them, casting long, silent shadows, was the spire. It hummed with a low, deep vibration that Lyra could feel in her bones, even through her suit. "Let's get closer," she urged. They began their trek towards the spire's base. It was even more enormous up close, its surface not merely crystal, but a mosaic of interlocking geometric plates, each glowing faintly with inner light. There were no discernible doors or entrances, just the sheer, unbroken expanse of its mysterious form. As they neared, Lyra noticed something peculiar. The faint, glowing patterns on the spire's surface seemed to shift, subtly, in response to the resonance conduit in her satchel. It was as if the spire was acknowledging its presence. She took out the conduit, holding it up. Its glow intensified, mirroring the patterns on the spire. "It's reacting, Jax," she said, wonder in her voice. Jax projected a holographic scan. "Frequencies detected, Lyra. The spire is emitting a complex pattern of sonic and energy waves. The conduit appears to be resonating with it, acting as a key?" Lyra felt a surge of excitement. This was it. This was why she was here. She raised the conduit higher, focusing her intent. The spire's surface before them began to shimmer, the interlocking plates slowly pulling apart, revealing a dark, cavernous opening. It wasn't a door, but a controlled breach, a response to the conduit's unique frequency. "Well, Jax," she said, a grin spreading across her face. "Looks like we're invited." They stepped inside. The air, or rather the vacuum within, was still. The cavernous space was vast, stretching upwards and outwards into darkness. The interior walls were just as intricately patterned as the exterior, glowing with soft violet light that chased away the shadows. There was no dust, no debris, no sign of decay despite its immense age. It was as if the spire had been waiting, perfectly preserved. "Environmental controls activating," Jax announced. A faint, almost imperceptible pressure change indicated that the spire was sealing itself, and a localized atmosphere was being generated, breathable and warm. Lyra carefully unsealed her helmet, taking a deep breath of clean, recycled air. The interior of the spire was a labyrinth of ramps, platforms and bridges, all glowing with the same violet light. It was clearly designed for beings of immense scale, yet there were smaller conduits and pathways, almost as if it had been adapted for smaller explorers. "This isn't a graveyard, Jax," Lyra mused. "It's a machine. A colossal, ancient machine." They began their ascent, following the strongest energy readings from the conduit. The journey was long, winding through chambers that hummed with dormant power, past vast, silent mechanisms that Lyra couldn't even begin to comprehend. Some chambers were filled with what looked like giant crystalline arrays, others with intricate, flowing energy conduits. Lyra used the resonance conduit to activate dormant panels, to illuminate dark passages, and to decipher cryptic symbols etched into the spire's walls. The conduit seemed to act as a universal interface, a master key to the spire's ancient technology. With each activation, new sections of the spire came to life, filling with soft light and a deeper, more resonant hum. At one point, they encountered a series of glowing energy barriers. Jax scanned them. High energy discharge, Lyra. Potentially harmful. Lyra held up the conduit. It pulsed, then emitted a short, sharp burst of energy. The barriers flickered, then dissipated, revealing a clear path forward. It's not just a key, Jax, she realized. It's a controller. A tuner. Deeper and deeper they went, ascending towards the spire's peak. The energy around them grew more intense, filling Lyra with a strange, exhilarating tingle. She felt connected to the spire, to its purpose, to its ancient creators. The stars were singing, and here in this colossal structure, she was beginning to hear the individual notes. Finally, after what felt like days of climbing and deciphering, they reached a vast circular chamber at the very heart of the spire. It was bathed in a brilliant, almost blinding violet light, emanating from a colossal crystal structure that dominated the center of the room. This wasn't just a crystal. It was a complex lattice of interwoven energy conductors, swirling with raw cosmic power. It was the spire's core, its heart. Lyra felt an overwhelming sense of reverence. This was it. The source of the spire graveyard's mystery. Readings off the charts, Lyra. Jax chirped, his blue light pulsating rapidly. This crystal is resonating with something immense, beyond our sensor capabilities. Lyra approached the crystal, the resonance conduit clutched in her hand, vibrating intensely. As she drew nearer, she noticed intricate markings on the crystal's surface, glyphs that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. They were the same patterns she had seen on the spire's exterior. But here, they were alive, dynamic. She reached out, placing her hand gently on the crystal's cool, smooth surface. The resonance conduit flared, merging its light with the crystal's. A wave of energy, not harsh or painful, but warm and inviting, washed over her. And then, she understood. The spire graveyard wasn't a collection of dead monuments. The spires weren't just colossal machines. They were instruments. Gigantic, ancient tuning forks designed to listen to the universe, to amplify its subtle energies, and to sing back grind. They were part of a vast interstellar network, a symphony orchestra spanning galaxies, built by a civilization that had transcended physical form, leaving behind these magnificent tools for those who came after. The singing of the stars wasn't just a metaphor. It was real. The universe was a symphony of cosmic vibrations, dark matter hums, stellar flares, and the silent dance of gravity. And these spires were designed to translate that symphony, to make it comprehensible, to allow a listener to truly hear the cosmic melody. The resonance conduit wasn't just a key, it was a conductor's baton. It allowed her to tap into the spire's core, to feel the flow of its energy, to understand its purpose. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the energy of the spire wash over her. She saw not with her eyes, but with her mind, with her very soul. She saw constellations being born and dying, felt the distant rumble of black holes, heard the soft whisper of nebula dust. She felt the interconnectedness of all things, the silent, beautiful harmony that bound the universe together. She wasn't just an explorer. She was a participant in the grand cosmic dance. She was singing back. A profound sense of peace settled over her. She was no longer just Lyra, the lonely explorer. She was a tiny vital part of something immense and beautiful. The universe wasn't just calling. It was embracing her. When she opened her eyes, the chamber still glowed, but now, the violet light seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. Jax hovered silently, his optical sensor dim, as if he too had been overwhelmed by the magnitude of the revelation. "It's beautiful, Jax," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "They built this to connect us, to let us hear." She knew her journey wasn't over. This was just the beginning of a new chapter. The spire graveyard was no longer a place of mystery and challenge, but a sanctuary, a cosmic concert hall where the universe played its endless melody. She could activate the other spires, she realized. bringing the entire network back to life, allowing its song to ripple across the stars once more. With a final gentle touch to the central crystal, Lyra turned. She carried the hum of the spire within her, a melody that resonated with the conduit in her satchel, and with her very soul. They made their way back to the Ye Stardust Wanderer, the journey outward feeling much shorter, imbued with a new sense of purpose. As Lyra piloted her ship away from the activated spire, she looked back. The colossal structure was now glowing with an even brighter, more vibrant violet light, pulsing gently, a beacon of cosmic harmony. It was no longer a graveyard but a vibrant, living monument. Lyra set a course for the next spire, a newly discovered sense of wonder guiding her. The universe was an endless symphony, and she, with her loyal drone by her side, and the resonance conduit as her tuning fork, was finally learning to play her part. She was no longer just listening, she was contributing to the cosmic chorus. As the Stardust Wanderer glided silently through the stardusted night, Lyra closed her eyes. The hum of the ship, the soft whir of jacks, and the gentle pulse of the conduit were all part of the same melody. She drifted off, a peaceful smile on her face, dreaming of starlight and cosmic songs, knowing that the universe was vast, mysterious, and utterly, wonderfully alive. And she was a part of its beautiful unending story.